As the taxi pulled up outside the hospital, Karen, looking both worried and determined, stepped out with me. She had insisted on coming along, and I wasn't going to argue. The situation was serious, and having her there gave me a strange sense of comfort. I looked over at her, her tear-streaked face softening as she held my arm tightly. It wasn't just concern for Larry, it was her strength that was trying to calm my nerves. She had always been like this, caring, considerate, unlike her father, who seemed to be constantly living in his bubble of wealth and power. Sitting in the taxi, I could hear her whispering something about how her father had always spoken of their noble heritage. It was like he was trying to create a wall of superiority around their family, but it wasn't working anymore. I was done with the intimidation. My father, Karen said softly, has always believed wealth gives him power over people, even those he loves. I glanced at her, unable to hide my disbelief. She had spent most of her life under that kind of pressure, yet she didn't carry that arrogance. And I want to marry Larry, she continued, her voice firm, almost unshakable. I know what this means, but no matter what, I'm standing by my decision. I took a deep breath. We might have to confront your father, I said quietly. This could be difficult for you, for your mother. Karen's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. I'll talk to her. I'll tell her myself. I know you're here for us, and we're doing this together. Her words filled me with hope, but also with dread. This wasn't going to be easy. After we arrived at the hospital and found out Larry was fine, though shaken up, I knew the real battle was waiting for us. I made a quick call to the shareholders, gathering them urgently for an emergency meeting. This wasn't just about Larry's injury anymore. It was about taking control and standing up for what was right. The next day, in a rented conference room downtown, I was met with a room full of faces I didn't recognize. Some older men in suits, a woman in her 50s wearing glasses, and Mr. Michael, Karen's father, who sat there with a smug expression. As soon as he saw me, his face twisted in shock. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice rising with disbelief. The tension in the room was palpable. The other shareholders looked at each other uneasily. I wasn't going to be intimidated, though. I had a plan, and I was ready to execute it. I gathered everyone here for a reason, I said, my voice calm but firm. We need to talk about your actions, Mr. Michael. He snorted in disgust. I don't know why you're wasting everyone's time. What can a middle school graduate like you possibly have to say? His words hit me like a slap, but I didn't let him see it. Instead, I smiled slightly. You seem to be confused, Mr. Michael, I said, letting the words hang in the air. Perhaps you should check who owns the majority of this company's shares before speaking to me like that. There it was. The shock on his face was priceless. He stumbled over his words, looking from me to the other shareholders. What are you talking about? I kept my tone even, playing my hand. I'm the majority shareholder here, Mr. Michael. I've been attending shareholder meetings for years. And as for your comments, they don't carry much weight anymore. I could see him struggling to understand, his arrogance cracking for the first time. The others in the room exchanged glances, sensing the shift in power. I could feel the momentum building. I called this meeting to express my gratitude, I said, barely hiding my amusement. But now, we need to address some serious issues. Mr. Michael stared at me, his face pale. What are you talking about? You're not even a part of this family business. You can't just show up and start making demands. I leaned back in my chair, letting my words sink in. I'm not just anyone. I've invested heavily in this company. I analyze the market trends. I mentor the junior investors. My investments have made millions for this company. I've helped companies grow. I've supported small businesses, and I've influenced management policies. I can even have executives appointed or dismissed if I choose. The room was silent. The shareholders were now on my side, watching Mr. Michael squirm. His arrogance, his belief that his family name alone gave him power, none of that mattered now. What I'm proposing, I continued, is the dismissal of Mr. Michael as president of this company. The shock in his eyes was almost comical. You can't do that. "You have no right to fire me," he shouted, his voice trembling with panic. But it wasn't enough. His authority was slipping away, and he knew it. The tension in the room grew as I spoke. "The shareholders and I have decided that your behavior is no longer acceptable. You assaulted the son of the principal shareholder. This demands consequences." Mr. Michael was cornered. The room's energy shifted from shock to something far more dangerous: anger. "You think you can intimidate me? You think you can take everything I've worked for?" He sneered, but his words were hollow. I smiled, my patience growing thin. "I don't need to intimidate you. What I'm going to do is something far worse. I'm going to expose you for what you really are." He stepped forward, trying to stand tall. "Go ahead," he said smugly. "I'm not afraid of you." But he wasn't prepared for what came next. With a wave of my hand, I motioned for the projector to be turned on. "Let's take a look at a little video, shall we?" I said, my voice steady. The screen flickered to life, and the footage began to play. The room gasped as the video unfolded. There on the screen was a security camera shot of our families dining together at a restaurant. And then it happened, the moment when Mr. Michael had struck Larry right there in front of everyone. The room was silent, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mr. Michael's face drained of color as he saw himself on the screen. He tried to get up, but the shareholders held him back. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice filled with panic. "From the restaurant," I replied. "After I took Larry to the hospital, I went back and spoke to the owner. They were kind enough to give me the security footage." The video continued, showing the moment when Mr. Michael had been verbally abusive, calling Larry a middle school graduate, and telling him he wasn't good enough for Karen. But that wasn't the worst part. The video didn't end there. It showed Mr. Michael, still at the restaurant, getting into an argument with his wife. "You're just a pawn to me," he yelled at her before slapping her across the face. The entire room fell into stunned silence. The evidence was irrefutable. Mr. Michael's face was twisted in shock, his eyes wide with fear. The shareholders, once loyal, now looked at him with disgust. "This is what happens when you treat people like they're beneath you," I said, my voice cold and unwavering. "You lose everything." He stood there trembling as the gravity of the situation hit him. He tried to defend himself, but his words were weak. I'm sorry," he stammered, his voice cracking. "Please forgive me. I'll make it right. I'll do anything." But it was too late. The shareholders were already turning against him. They could see the man he truly was, someone who had hidden behind his wealth and family name, using power to hurt others. And now, it was all unraveling. As I looked at him, the smugness fading from his face, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. "Your position here is over, Mr. Michael. You've made your choice, and now you will face the consequences." He looked around, his face pale and broken. "Please," he begged, falling to his knees. "I'll increase the dividends for everyone. Just don't do this." I shook my head. "It's not about money. It's about respect. You can't buy that." And with that, Mr. Michael's reign as president ended. The shareholders voted to remove him immediately. The company would continue, but with a new direction, one where integrity and fairness would finally take precedence. I had won, not through force, but by standing up for what was right. But even as Mr. Michael was escorted out, there was still one final piece to address: the issue of Karen. Mr. Michael, broken and desperate, turned to me with one last pitiful offer. "I'll give you my daughter. She's a fine woman, raised in the best way. Please, take her." I stared at him, my anger flaring. "Don't treat your daughter like an object," I said, my voice low. "Karen will marry who she wants to marry, and that's Larry. If you truly cared about her, you'd respect her choices." Mr. Michael's face fell. He realized there was nothing left for him. No power, no wealth, no family control. He was just a man who had failed his daughter, his wife, and himself. With one last look, I turned and walked away, Karen at my side, ready to build a future free of his control.